there, everybody, and welcome back to another Alchemy Guide. This time, we're going to be talking about Tactical Mode. Tactical Mode is Alchemy's way of bringing your maps to life and allowing you to manipulate tokens in any kind of turn order or combat-based situation where you need to have positioning and all that good stuff. So, although we are focused more on theater of the mind, we still do allow you to move stuff around on top of a map and everything like that. So let's go ahead, jump into Tactical Mode, and I'm going to show you the ins and outs of everything that you need to know. So when you want to enter Tactical Mode, you have two options. First option is on the top right, you'll see a little map icon, and you can see Tactical Mode pops up when you mouse over it. You can simply click into that and it will bring you into the map, to which you can then manipulate by dragging it around or zooming in and out of it pretty easily. Now, another way you can do this, for instance, if you do this, it is on an individual player's basis. So you will then tell your characters, okay, guys, we're all going to jump over to Tactical Mode now. And each player would then have to click into Tactical Mode to then see the map. Now, if you want to bring your players into a scene where there is only a map loaded, that will shove everybody over to the new scene and load the map up without them having to click into it. So for example, right here, if I go down and I scroll to my attack mode map that I've made here, and this is a scene that only has a Tactical Mode map loaded in. There is no background to the scene. There's no anything else. I just hit play. And by doing so, it automatically shoves me into the Tactical Mode map. You can see here that it allows you the same exact things as before, but we have basically taken all our players and popped them into this map for them. The only difference is this doesn't have a background now. So again, like I said, if you are trying to get more immersive and or make it look nice, you can still have that map. Just make sure you tell everybody, hey, it's time to activate Tactical Mode. So we activate Tactical Mode, and now we still have that beautiful map behind us. It's blurred out, and we have access to the map here. So we're going to go down the line and talk about a few things. Now, just like in regular mode, not in Tactical Mode, you have options for audio settings just in case you want to turn up or down the music that might be involved in the scene that you have attached to it. You also still have access to the database where you can click here and search anything up via our universe search, meaning that you can find articles or items or anything you want here within the universe. You can show and hide your camera chat. You can activate streamer mode, but here is where the options come strictly for Tactical Mode. So as you can see, our TAC mode is basically it's kind of simplified in the fact that we only have like 5 or 6 buttons, but then it can get pretty in depth. So if you look here on the bottom, we're going to start from the bottom and move our way up. At the very bottom, you'll find tactical settings. This is where you'll be able to adjust your map along the grid. Okay, so you can either once you have this this wrench kind of clicked in, you can see right now my map and the grid kind of move together. But if I click into this, by doing that, it'll just allow me to shift the map around behind the grid. That'll help me at the very beginning when I'm trying to get the grid maybe to match a certain distance or anything like that within the map. Now, let's say, for instance, our squares are too big or squares are too small, something like that. You can then adjust the map size to help you match your distances a little bit better, just in case you want stuff to either be smaller or bigger. You can adjust the map scale individually. Another thing you can do is, let's say, for instance, you're on a really light map. Maybe it's snow or something like that. And the white grid isn't really good for very visibility wise. You can click the invert grid button and that will turn it dark. And you can actually have the dark lines and make it a little bit more subtle too, depending on where or how you want the map to be depicted. Now, the reason we have this grid in the first place is because you can actually take your characters here, and by creating a token, you can place them on the grid and it'll auto lock to each one of these spots. But let's say, for instance, we don't want it to auto lock to a spot. If we don't want it to auto lock to a spot, we can simply turn off the grid here by hiding it. And by hiding the grid, instead of it locking in, this token can now just move around freely. I can just take them and move them wherever I'd like. And these right here, when they move, they don't lock to anything. But if I turn the grid on and I show the grid, it will then kind of slide right into place, slide right into a nearby square. So it's a really nice way to, if it's not fitting your map, or let's say, for instance, you're doing more theater of the mind kind of stuff, just you want positioning to be a big deal, then you can turn off the grid itself and just kind of move the tokens around the map wherever you want. You can also just do that by moving their tokens around and then turning the grid back on, and then kind of moving them however you'd like from there. It just kind of gives you multiple options on how the tokens are able to be manipulated. So with that, we can move on to right here, this map phases button. As you can see, we have the dim light here, but we can have multiple map phases. And what that means, it's not necessarily different maps or layers of a map. For instance, if you're like in a dungeon and you have like 12 different layers of dungeon or whatever, that's not necessarily what this is for. Map phases specifically is for changes in times of day, or maybe the situation has changed. Maybe you're on a map and there's a volcano nearby, and while you're in the middle of combat, the volcano explodes and lava starts to run. And you have a separate map for that, but it's the same location. You can then use map phases to be able to switch between those two maps. So in order to do that, you need to set it up first through the scene itself. So you go in, you edit it, and you add a tactical map. So we only have the one attached to this one, but if we wanted to add a second, we can then say, well, let's do something like this. Let's go ahead and we'll go to the abandoned mine entrance day, right? And thanks to Chepeku, we have these awesome scenes here. And then the next one would be the abandoned mine entrance, a goblin night, all right? Let's say, for instance, goblins came and took over the map within 2 seconds. These map phases will allow you to, and you can name them whatever you want when you do so. If I go back into tactical mode, you can actually just click over here and name them whatever. So map 1, map 2, you can name them whatever you want. I'm just changing them so you can see that it changes. And by going into these, you can click here and it'll swap your map over. Now, again, like I said, these are specifically meant for phases, not necessarily map changes completely. As you can see, the tokens stayed in their general spot. So you would have to kind of then readjust your tokens and or readjust your fog of war, which we'll get into in just a second. But here you can see the map phases allow you to then take the map, change the map phase, and now all of a sudden you're in the same location, but maybe something has changed to signify a change in the location, right? So map phases works really well for that. Now, coming back over to our first map here, we can see that there might be an area where the characters might not be able to see, or something similar to the effect of needing to have fog of war. So I'm going to go to a brighter map so that the fog of war shows really well. But basically here it is. We have functionality for fog of war, and you can just basically kind of draw it on. This brings us to our left and right click panel. As you can see, these two buttons are sort of stacked on top of each other, and these signify the different abilities that you can use with your left and right click of your mouse. So the bottom is right click and the top is left click, and you can assign them a certain thing that you want it to do. So by default, right click allows you to use a measuring tool. You can kind of measure distance or measure a line of sight, or however you want to, manipulate this tool. As you can see, without a grid, it's kind of free flowing. It just does whatever it wants. If you do have a grid on, it will actually snap to the different boxes within the grid. Another really cool thing that you can do with the drag and drop here is you can actually, while you're right clicking to drag it, you can left click and kind of create little, movement points so that you can plan out a more complicated maneuver or whatever you want to do. The same thing works for if you're just doing your gridless options, but you can kind of create whatever you want. And then as soon as you let go of right click, it'll all kind of disappear. But it adds the measurements up so that you can see, oh, I'm going to use this much movement to go and, position my characters wherever I want. So that's kind of our measuring tool. What is kind of hidden is our ping option. So all you need to do is hold left click on the mouse here, and it will ping, as well as give you a small little sound effect that allows the GM to know, hey, somebody's pinging the map. So this menu over here, you can see that you can actually click into it. And when you click into it, there are multiple options that you can set to, or assign to a certain mouse click. You have things like movement, you have measure tool, which is automatically on your right click and left click. But then you have things like add fog, erase fog, cover all, and reveal all. These allow you these different options to add Fog of War to the map. Now, I'm just going to go ahead and assign my add Fog of War to my left click, and I'm going to assign my erase Fog of War to my right click. So I can add Fog of War as I wish, and it's just a simple paint on tool. And by right clicking, I can erase any of the fog that I've created, all that good stuff. If you have a map that you are uncovering as they go, it's a lot easier to just go over here to the panel and cover all with fog. That means all of this map is covered from the players. And then you would just go in and erase what they can essentially see on the map, right? So I just go over here and say, okay, maybe you can all see this area that we're in. Now, if you want to get very specific about what areas they can see, you can also hit the Alt button, and that will create a much smaller circle for you to better manipulate the Fog of War in a smaller area. If you're wondering how this looks in terms of what the character can see, they actually cannot see anything outside of the Fog of War. What it essentially does is it erases the map in that area. So where as a GM, we can kind of see this this dark tinted area, this is actually fully covered up in the player's view. So let's go ahead and check out the player's view, what they see on the map here. All right, so I'm on the player view now. And as you can see, they have that lovely kind of dimmed out map behind us and everything like that. But you can see that they don't have vision to any of the area outside of what has been revealed by the GM. This is essentially how our Fog of War tool works. You paint in the areas that they can see. And as you paint it in, it updates automatically on their side. And if they want to move into this new location where they have the ability to go to, obviously, you can then, as a GM, reveal to them what they can see past that point. Now, without anything like dynamic Fog of War or anything like that, we present an option that allows you to kind of show them as you wish. You can go ahead and erase or add fog on the fly. Now, again, like I said, Theater of the Mind is a lot more less tactile and more just, of course, thinking about things, but you can always go in and make them as tactile as you want. You can reveal things on the map. You can reveal players or characters or tokens or anything like that as they come up to them. So even without those tools, you can still manipulate the map in those ways. So as you can see, those are a few things that you can use here in tactical mode. We have things like measuring tools, map phases, different things you can do with the grid, map sizes. You can manipulate the tokens in different ways. One of those ways that I didn't show you, but I'm going to go ahead and do now, is if you left click the token, you'll see a little marker above it, and you can actually take that and rotate the token however you wish. We even give you a little measurement tool to say how far that token is rotating. So you can take that and rotate tokens. You can also resize tokens if you wish to give them, let's say, for instance, they have an ability that makes them grow, or maybe a spell was cast on them. If you actually just go into the token itself and edit it, and you scroll down to the bottom where it says token size, you can then change the token to whatever size you wish. Now here, I'm just going to say, let's go with huge 3x3. You click it, and by doing so, both of my tokens were affected because it's the same character that I brought in twice, but you can see the difference now. The tokens have grown in size, but that's how you would change it on the fly. So you do that. You can rotate the tokens. You can, hide or show the tokens however you wish on the map. So you can just right click and hide, and that token will disappear, but still be kind of semi-visible for you as the GM. The other players won't be able to see them. You can do that with your NPCs to kind of pre-place them on the map where you'd like. That way you can set up the map before the players get there. And then whenever they actually move into the room or move into the area that they can be able to see them, you can then show those characters to them as if they had just popped out of nowhere. Another thing you can do with this map is that you can actually create tokens in a way that allow you to use NPCs for locations, or maybe even just allowing you to mark the map in a certain way. So let's take, for instance, how we worked with Forbidden Lands. You can see this awesome hex map that we have going on here, that we can now take NPCs or locations, as you see here, and place them down on the map. And by grabbing them, you can see that with this hex map here, it just kind of snaps into place, and we can place it wherever we want. Now, what's really neat about placing these down is that just like in other apps and everything like that, you have these as object tokens, but here we have them as NPC tokens. That way you can click into them and you can, for instance, view them. And when you look into them, you get a picture, you get some information. If you wanted to, you can edit in any kind of description of the location that you're currently in. You can even add trackers to this location. Let's say, for instance, this place has a population, or maybe it has some resources that you need to keep track of. You can even give this actions. So for instance, if you want to play as this location, you could give it actions such as, how many guards do they have on duty that day? Or, whatever you want, add roll tables to this section. You can even add items, which is really neat because then you can add what they maybe have in a market stall or what kind of stuff that you have for the players within this location, so on and so forth. So it's more than just a NPC token. It could be a location token. It could be whatever you want it to be. We've even had some people take these tokens that you can create for NPCs, and by just creating an NPC, adding a picture of a PNG of a really cool looking arrow or a scroll or something like that, and using it and sharing it out to everybody so that they can then take that little pointer and kind of point to different things on the map to let people know exactly what they're talking about. That way they don't have to sit there and ping every 2 seconds. They just take that thing or that pointer and just say, like, I'm talking about this thing over here, and using it to kind of navigate the map, which is really cool. So a lot of different things you can do here in tactical mode. I hope you enjoyed, and I hope you got what you needed out of this. If you have any questions or you have any suggestions for things that we can add to tactical mode in the future, please do leave them in the comment sections below. And I appreciate you guys coming and watching another Alchemy Guide. We will see you in the next one. Bye, everybody.